Hi, welcome to my set of videos. This is Patricia Ann Landon Regali, Chief Little Flower, coming at you from the trenches of having been targeted. I am a targeted individual that have been targeted since about the age of 25 for about a couple of years. Then it would recess into the background on and off until the year of COVID, about 2020, whenever gang stalking had reemerged in full force and full effect. At the time of this recording, it is November 2024, and the gang stalking, the PSYOP assignments still continue. And so my videos they're about my experiences as a targeted individual. I had been railroaded out of a successful and thriving career as a paramedic. I've been a paramedic for about 13 years before I walked away from my profession as a paramedic for two reasons. The first one was so I could speak freely about being heavily targeted and gang stalked in medical facilities by other medical professionals. If I were to hold a job in the medical world, that would be a huge conflict of interest for me and any potential employer. And so I have a passion for sharing this with the world because what's happened to me can happen to anybody. And if we were to shrink in fear, how would anybody ever rise up to protect themselves and to arm themselves with the knowledge of objective data? And additionally, since I was being targeted in the medical world, I knew it was a matter of time before somebody was paid to bear false accusations against my license. In other words, it was a matter of time before people would just make false accusations on my license. So those were the two reasons why I had nobly walked away from my career as a paramedic. And so I decided not to renew my license, because if my license was inert and non-viable, nobody could make any accusation against it. So I stayed 10 steps ahead of the community-based harassment. And so these videos are about my thoughts, they're about my experiences as a heavily targeted individual. So thank you for stopping. So this is how you know, objectively speaking, how messed up the treason part of our government is, which is the same government that passed out them smallpox blankets to Dominion or on the Oregon Trail of Tears. Is that it's also the same government that people know as the deep state. It's the same government that who go after whistleblowers. It's the same government. And objectively speaking, how you can see it for yourself is all of this whitewashing of history, all of this, what's gang stalking? Now come on, if you're busy toting that, especially if you are a public servant, you're part of the problem, and you're gaslighting your community. So ask your local police departments, what is your SOAP, your subjective objective protocol, to protect targeted individuals, to protect, same damn thing, gang stalked individuals. They come at you with gang stalking, to gaslighting you. Because to be a public servant, to not even know that, supposedly, is a disservice to the community. Now, if you were to expand on your police departments not knowing, supposedly, what gang stalking is, that's a fuck you to the community at large. But consider the fact that stalking only happens in singles, never ever in a group, is one of the most absurd, weak-ass fronts that you could ever gaslight anybody with. So, now, here is a parallel to expand on that, is that if police departments are unchecked in not providing subjective objective protocol to protect targeted individuals and gang stalked individuals, and that's the police, that's the law, what do you think we could all expect from the medical community? I say that because if police departments and the law can gaslight the public at large with, what's gang stalking? Explain it to me. And the community of the medical world, do you think that they're going to admit that gang stalking exists? Because I submit to the public that whenever the 1,003 to 600 Nazi assholes that ran the concentration camps and the such were filtered right into the United States, Dr. Mengele was among them. And if you don't know who Dr. Mengele is, or Auschwitz, it's time to ban up some self-research. And if you want to be whitewashed, use Google every time. Otherwise, more objective findings would be DuckDuckGo for your web browser. Because Dr. Mengele was known for experimenting on the occupants of his concentration camp. So what we have here is a Nazi heritage of gang stalkers, which are Nazi in origin, Nazi in history. This is Nazi brainchild of all of this wireless, touchless, fenceless, cageless concentration camp of gang stalkers. But in the medical world, we have an even more insidious presence of experimentation on the public at large. There's books on it on Amazon. I can't remember the book that I'd gotten, but it had a list of the experiment and the year. There's a bunch of them out there. It wasn't just syphilis. We have a macabre history. And we also have the MK Ultra program that were experimented on, and so on and so forth. So my point here being that you're not going to have continuing education from your institutions with regards to gang stalking, targeting of the individual, because that's another part of the populace that's like, ooh, we don't know what the hell targeting is. We don't even know what gang stalking is. But how can you serve the community if you're not an independent, critical thinker to your own self. So if you end up, if you're a medical provider, it would be negligent of you to not even do your own research. I would suggest start with targetedjustice.com and let your expansion begin from there. Because if police departments are not even required to admit their own psyche that gang stalking exists, that targeting of the individual exists, they're part of the problem. Got a lot of dirty cops in there running game, servicing themselves to the community by cashing out people for sudden wealth payouts. The trifecta I've mentioned in other videos, which is primary benefit being satanic procurement of whatever intention was made to sacrifice somebody. And if you want to broaden that out into a side street, they get to loosh their victim until they are gang stalked to death. Secondary is your premeditated murders and kills, because every gang stalked individual that is highly targeted, they're meant to be ran into the ground, either by seppuku or homicide. Call it seppuku. You got your sudden wealth payouts from your insurance policies, life insurance policies. That people have put out on the target that have no business in a familial way to do that, because that is their shady business. And then you have your tertiary, which is your organ harvesting on the black market and whatnot. And then your bonus would be the energy harvesting. So if police departments aren't even being held accountable to provide SOAP, subjective objective protocol, for all of the gang stalked individuals and targeted individuals, you can bet for damn sure your medical world is divided with gang stalking, targeting of the individual. They're pushing the 8-ball, honey. You have Dr. Mengele Prodigy in there running psychotic. Running psychotic experimentation sanctioned by the government. No, baby. It's a kitty cat. And so, if you are an ethical healthcare provider, I have met one gentleman that said he wasn't ethical. I'm like, I didn't think anything of it at the time. Now I'm like, what do you mean you're not ethical? Was it just a joke? I would never deny being ethical, especially as a joke. Whatever. But you're not going to have CEs fostered by any institution that would advocate knowledge of targeting of the individual, let alone gang stalking people to death. That's because they're part of the problem. So, you as an ethical healthcare provider, you're going to have to do your own CEs on this. Because with 1/3 of the populace participating in all of this gang stalking, all of this noise campaign, all of this PSYOP assignments, all of the smear campaigns, That's 1/3 of the populace working over 2/3 of the populace. And let's not forget the directed energy weapons. That gang stalkers are encouraged to deploy on targeted individuals, which equate to radiation poisoning. That's radiation poisoning, bitches. I've been radiation poisoned since the age of 10. I'll do another video on that and how I know. Another time. So, let's put it this way. If any healthcare provider, psychiatric and whatnot, mental health, were to say prescribe a straitjacket and Haldol on a targeted individual, not even do their own due diligence of researching the presence of this seedy underbelly that has burgeoned Hydra, multiple Hydra heads in our communities. You can throw all the Haldol you want at somebody who is authentically targeted, and the problem ain't going anywhere, which then becomes negligence. So, healthcare providers, you're going to have to step it up a notch. And if you are ethical and you haven't been bought out and sold out your own license, all of this built-in protection, that's crumbling. It's on its way out. What we have here are agonal respirations of a beast, of a Hydra head, but still no date of abolishment for gang stalking, let alone acknowledgement publicly in the media or otherwise. I knew the risk I was taking when I had done it. I just had no idea that my own biological family and in-laws were spearheading the witch hunt on my ass. I do now. But pretty soon, thanks to God, thanks to the Most High, thanks to the Holy Spirit, thanks to Jesus Christ, everybody coming sideways at others, y'all are going to be exposed on Front Street. Because we have a lot of judicial participating in all of this. How many inheritances were usurped by judicial over the years? Hasn't just been me. But these are my last days before notoriety is upon me. So, I've been in the blind the entire time. You can call me Helen Keller. As per YouTube, Intuit, psychics, mediums, and whatnot that I've learned from, that I was able to pull in pieces of my story in on. It's kind of like religion. You don't have to believe in Hinduism, but you can acknowledge Hinduism exists. And then to deny the fact that Hinduism doesn't exist would make you look pretty local. Would make you look pretty uneducated. So when it comes to psychics, intuitives, shamans, mystics and seers, consider that its own religion. Just because somebody subscribes to it, acknowledges its authenticity, does not make them insane or otherwise. But be careful, medical health professionals, to use somebody's spiritual subscriptions as objective data of any with any instability, because that's egg on your career, it's egg on your face. So whenever it comes to your targeted individuals, tread very lightly, be objective. But either way, instant karma is upon everybody now, because we're moving into a day and age that is a more tolerant of the spectrum of belief systems. Just because it doesn't align with you, the bottom line here should be ethics. You can trust me to believe in aliens and spaceships and to even have possible alien DNA. But if my ethics were anything less than savory, well, that's cause for diagnostic purposes. But even with that side of belief, if my ethical balances were acutely ethical, you better watch out misdiagnosing anybody. And you better watch out that your treason government doesn't try to bribe you unrealistically on somebody who is very grounded. It's everybody's accountability to do your own due diligence and research targeted individuals and gang-stalked individuals. Visit targetedjustice.com. Go visit a monthly meeting. Immerse yourself into somebody else's experiences. Otherwise, as a medical provider, that's borderline negligence. Because how can you be objective in dealing with anybody as your patient if you've kept a blind eye to a very pertinent piece of history going on right now within the context of our populace? Don't let your license be unethical because you decided to go with the flow and not even do your own due diligence. But that's where we are as a society. So if you haven't even done your due diligence to even research targeting of the individual, you're pushing the 8-ball in your own career, and you're pushing the 8-ball in your own family's lives, because you need to protect them from all of this hellish infestation that's going on right now. This isn't just limited to the United States of America. This is a global infestation. But I'm just going to put a pin in it, come back to it another time. For the one still trying to figure it out, I think that's enough information to go with right now without overloading your brain. Anyway, thank you for tuning in. See you next time on the next video.